What was it that drew you to the profession of nursing?
I had gone to see my mom in the ICU. I saw my mom on the bed. She looked very disheveled. As a 12-year-old child, I was very scared and I wondered, are people treating mommy well? About 2 weeks later, when I entered the room, my mom, she looked very happy. She now had braids in her hair on the portion where there was hair, and I was surprised. She looked very well kept. A woman walked in, and the moment that woman walked in, my mom smiled. I was so amazed at how impactful that woman was, and it turns out that woman was a nurse. And I asked her, as a 12-year-old girl, I said, I know mom's hair is now braided. Who did it? She said she did it. It touched my heart. I said, one day I'm going to become a nurse, and I'm going to, like, being a ray of sunshine in someone's darkest hours. When I did watch television, I realized that a lot of times, sometimes what you see on TV, like, people doing the IVs and whatnot, they're the doctors, but in reality, those are the nurses. We do a lot more than what the media portrays. Safety is our number one priority as nurses, and especially psych nurses is our number one priority. You always want to make sure the patient is safe. As a Cameroonian or African, we tend to think that it's a badge of honor to say, oh, we've gone through struggle, which a lot of us has as African, even as immigrants. You say, oh, I've gone through this struggle, that struggle. I'm fine. I never needed therapy. Therapy is the white man. It's for weak people. But here's what people don't realize: you can persevere all you want. I believe that there comes a point where you will have a breaking point. After a few years of being in psych and noticing that, this is how change occurs, I said, wow, I like this.
Welcome to the Nurse on Purpose podcast, where we challenge media stereotypes about nursing and spotlight the incredible and diverse roles nurses play in healthcare. I'm your host, Nello. Every week, I'll be joined by a nurse who is reshaping the narrative. From frontline care to leadership, education, innovation, and beyond, our aim is to show the world that nursing is so much more than what we see on TV. Together, we'll explore how we can collaborate with media and other stakeholders to create authentic and inspiring portrayals of nurses. Let's begin the conversation and ignite change, one episode at a time. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Nurse on Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Nello, and I'm so glad that you're joining us today. In this episode, we're exploring an important topic that has been gaining a lot of momentum in recent times. I'm so thrilled to be joined by Flavia Etoundi, a psychiatric registered nurse with over 11 years of experience in psych nursing. Flavia has worked extensively in advocating for patients' mental health and pushing the boundaries of psychiatric care. She currently works as a forensics nurse, and today we'll discuss how psych nurses go beyond caregiving to become crucial players in the mental health recovery process and how they're innovating within the healthcare system to meet the needs of patients. So Flavia, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Chinelo. I'm excited.
Absolutely. I want to get started by, just like the way I always get started, I want to talk about your journey in nursing. What was it that drew you to the profession of nursing, and why did you pick psych specifically?
Great question. So I'll tell you a story. The story is such that it was 2002, specifically about May, and I had gone to see my mom in the ICU, what I now know to be the ICU, and we were going there to say goodbye to her. And when I went there, I saw my mom on the bed. She looked very disheveled, did not look well taken care of, and she had gone there for brain surgery. And so what I noticed was that there was the left portion of her scalp was shaved, and I saw, the incisions. And the other portion of her hair was very disheveled, unkept. So as a 12-year-old child, I was very scared and I wondered, are people treating mommy well? Because she did not look like the woman that she used to be. My mom, she had been diagnosed with brain cancer, terminal brain cancer. And so they had done the surgery at Holy Cross Hospital. Cut a long story short, about 2 weeks later, They said that she was getting better, and she was now in what I now know to be the med surg floor. So we went there to see her. And on my way there, I was so nervous. I was so scared. I was wondering, oh my gosh, I did treat my mom well.
Yeah.
And when I entered the room, my mom, she looked very happy. She now had braids in her hair on the portion where there was hair. And I was surprised. She looked very well kept. And here is the moment that I will never forget in my life. A woman walked in. And the moment that woman walked in, my mom smiled. I mean, the smile just lit up the room. And I was so amazed at how impactful that woman was. And it turns out that woman was a nurse. And I asked her, as a 12-year-old girl, I said, you know, I know his mom's hair is now braided. Who did it? She said she did it. So it touched my heart. I told myself that I want that impact. I said, one day I'm going to become a nurse and I'm going to work for Holy Cross Hospital, and I'm going to have that same impact on someone's life. To, you know, like being a ray of sunshine in someone's darkest hours. That's the impact that I wanted to have. And that's why I became a nurse.
Oh,
So,
wow.
Yeah.
Man, you bringing tears to my eyes. I wasn't ready for that. That is a powerful story. The human connection really can't be traded for anything. I think that nursing is so unique in its ability to heal the human spirit, the human heart, with compassion, just being there, your presence, you're there 24 hours. There's so much value. There's so much positive light that you can shine in the lives of your patient. Yeah, we're scientists. Yeah, we're innovators. Yeah, we're creatives. Yeah, we are CEOs and doing all these things. But there is the heart and the soul and the spirit of nursing. I think everybody that comes in contact with a nurse like the one that you did would be a lucky patient, right? Because even in the darkest times of her life, she was able to smile, right? She had every reason not to smile, but this nurse gave her a reason to smile. And that's amazing. And I'm really sorry to hear about your mom also. You know, brain cancer is a tough diagnosis for a family to deal with, and at such a young age. I want to ask you, just moving on, the second part of that question, how did you decide it was psych nursing for you? What was your decision?
Oh my goodness. I have this, I always say this. I believe it was just God, like a divine situation. Yeah,
Absolutely.
because, and I ended up, it was a divine situation, and I ended up embracing and loving psych nursing. Okay, it's kind of, to make this story very short. When I was in nursing school, right, I had my psych rotation at Washington Adventist Hospital, and it turns out that I was able to build good rapport with patients, but I didn't know that that's what it was. So there were several occasions where I'll be sitting down talking to the patient, and sometimes when you're done talking to the patient, you know, they don't want to talk to you anymore. So I didn't want the other patient to feel left out, so I would just engage in the conversation with the other patient. And to cut the long story short, I ended up having the habit of engaging with patients who were very, very, had a history of severe aggression. And a lot of times after I was done with my, you know, my little session, the nurse would come up to me and tell me, oh, you know what, the patient tell you, whatnot. They were very curious. So I'll tell them. And at the end of the rotation, my professor, Sharon Tabb from Montgomery College, she told me, Flavia, have you ever thought about, you know, becoming a psych nurse? I told her, no, no way. And I felt I said, no, I felt so insulted that she actually thought I could be a psych nurse. No, like we're fools. No. Anyways, fast forward about a year and a half later, when I finally took my board and I ended up passing it, I applied for several jobs. No jobs were hiring me. And one day on my way to, I had gone to Shady Grove Adventist Hospital in Gaithersburg, Maryland. And I had gone there, I had applied for jobs, and I was going to ask them to hire me. They had no openings. So I said, okay, I always wanted to work with teenagers and kids. So there was a psych hospital named Adventist Behavioral Health Hospital. And I said, and I had an inclination that, hey, let me go in there and just talk to the nurse manager who works with kids and adolescents. Maybe they will give me a chance. I hadn't applied. I didn't know they had an opening, but I was like, hey, what do I have to lose? So I walked in there. I asked to speak with the manager who works with children and adolescents. And she came out. She asked me who brought you here and whatnot, and I was just telling her I just walked in. I would like to work, and she literally started to ask me questions, and I realized that she's actually interviewing me. So and I was answering to the best of my abilities, telling her I have experience with working with children. I love kids. I'm a student mentor at school. Everything. I was just like throwing everything out there about how much I just love. I want to make kids, teenagers' lives better because I know what it's like. Cut a long story short, she ended up telling me, I like you. You're young. You're a go-getter. Go online, apply for this position. I'm going to hire you. That's how come I entered into that psych realm. I didn't know I was going to stay there. And while there, people told me, Flavia, you're not a real nurse because you don't have any medical surgical background as a nurse. So you need to do 1 year in psych nursing. After that, so I felt so ashamed. Like, oh my God,
bad advice.
Nurse, bad. I didn't know any better. I was like, I want to be a nurse. I want to be able to work with IVs and whatnot. Anyways, I left that psych job after about a year and a half, and it was very interesting. It was probably one of the coolest jobs I've ever had, but it was also one of the most dangerous ones. But anyways, it's amazing. So I did. I left psych, went into home health, where I also work with psych patients because they had bipolar. I didn't know, but it was still psych, but it was home health. I was Cut long story short, that job, I experienced my first burnout, what I now know to be burnout. I didn't know it was burnout before. Anyways, and then to cut long story short, once I left that job, I was trying to find another job, and doors were not open for anything else besides psych. Like I would apply for a med surg job, the orientation would be canceled, my car would not work. Anyways, with psych. It opened. So I ended up getting another psych job, and some kind of way I ended up starting to like psych. So I ended up saying, because remember, I went into nursing because I wanted to be able to make a positive impact in someone's life. And with psych, I always wondered, even when I was in nursing school, I said, okay, talking to a patient, I'm not seeing the change. Like with med surg, you can see a wound. When you dress a wound, you can see progressively, you can see changes. But with psych, I was like, I don't know, I'm not seeing this change. Like after a few years of being in psych and noticing that, this is how change occurs, I said, wow, I like this, and it was fun. And also, I almost left psych nursing because I was like, I'm so bored. But I began to see that there are ways to make the profession exciting. I started to create groups, my mind just opened, and I said, I want to stay here. I love this.
Yeah.
I can use art and science in nursing. Perfect.
Yeah. Perfect. And something you mentioned kind of struck me, because you said you were totally against the idea of psych because you were like, no way. And you felt insulted. Yes. Why did you feel like it was an insult?
Yes, because when I was a little girl, and I'm originally from Cameroon, so we would go to the market with my mom, and we would sometimes see people that are naked, they're dirty, they're on cats, tattered hair, and I'll ask my mom, why are they like that? They'll be digging out of the trash cans and stuff, and my mom would say, oh no, they're fools, they have problems in their minds. So I was terrified of them. So when I thought of psych nursing, that's the picture that I had of a man, a woman, tattered dress, filthy, digging through the trash. And so even when I went to my psych rotations, I saw those people in the psych hospital, right? Not all of them were, they were not naked. However, some of them had like filthy clothes, their nails like very, very dirty. And the interesting thing is that I was able to see their humanity in the psych ward. Yeah, but still the stigma was there because I felt like, oh my gosh, no, I cannot work with these people. Yeah. Based on my cultural background, my experience as a little girl, and just also, I had called my cousin from France. I told him, I found a job as a nurse. He's like, yeah, where you work? He's like, I work in a psych hospital. Who's like, you work in an asylum, an asylum for the insane? Oh my God! Like, just there's a way that when you see something, it hits differently. I said, oh my gosh, I felt so ashamed. He was like, oh my gosh. So I felt that in me, so I did not want to be associated with that at all. So, yeah.
Well, I'm really glad that, somehow, even when you were running away from it, there was a draw and a pull toward it, right? Sometimes you just have to embrace that deep feeling in your heart that this is where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And you were kind of guided toward that place just by destiny, right? It's like every other door was shutting and psych was the door that was opening. And now you're growing to love something that originally you would have never, if you had listened to the opinions of others,
Yes.
or if you had listened to your own bias, you wouldn't have seen what you call the humanity in those patients, right? Because they're not just patients that have mental health issues. They're human beings first, right? They weren't born that way. There's something else inside of them. And I really love the fact that you're passionate about seeing beyond the illness, and trying to connect with the human being. And I love that. Okay, so I want to ask you, what is something that you feel sort of passionate about, something that you have a purpose to do within the field of nursing, something that really drives you? You're like, oh, I really want to see this thing change. What is that thing for you? What is it that motivates you?
I would like to see the younger generation being properly educated about the risks that come with drugs.
Mm.
And it's something that it really hits close to home, because when I was younger, I grew up I was born in Cameroon, came to America when I was 11 years old. So in school, we had this program called DARE. Yeah. DARE program, DARE to Resist Drugs, Violence. Yeah. So I was so terrified of drugs that I never did drugs, never smoked, because I was like, I don't want that. And however, nowadays, it seems as though people are making drugs cool, right? And we know that mental health crisis is at an all-time high, and people are now finding ways to cope. It's just so sad that some of the ways that they're finding are ineffective. And this new generation are thinking that, oh, if I take this particular drug, I don't want to name names, but like they'll name you the drugs that, oh, you take this, you're gonna feel stronger, you're gonna feel calmer. It's gonna anxiety is pretty high nowadays. So people will, like the younger generation, they want to know how to cope with the anxiety. They want to feed in. It's just so sad that they don't know the risks that are involved. I'll tell you this, and it's something that marked me forever. There was a patient who was brilliant, brilliant girl, smart, in college. So the mom called me telling me, Flavia, I don't know what to do with my daughter. She went with her friends, hung out. She took marijuana. She started taking marijuana, and now I don't recognize my daughter anymore. She is struggling with school. She's very terrified, very paranoid, and I don't know what to do. And I gave the mom. I told the mom to bring the child to the psych ward. To cut a long story short, we provided the care that we provided. We educated the patient, and I hope she turned out well. However, there's been many cases where when you get that marijuana, you may get the wrong batch where they put additional chemicals and whatnot. And I'm telling you, you just smoke that thing one time and you lose your mind forever. Is it really worth the risk? I know that we're all curious, but that's the thing. I've seen some people that are brilliant that have now lost your mind because they did that. They smoked that marijuana once. It's very sad. Yeah.
So your passion for children still comes through because you're still looking at, oh, I want to help the children. I want to, help them understand the risks, like risk-taking behaviors. And so I think that as nurses, we can have several passions, several interests, and we can combine all of them, and build something powerful. What I want to know is, what are some of the core responsibilities of psych nurses? Like outside of or different from other areas of nursing practice, what are some of the core responsibilities of psych nurses that help to support patients with mental health conditions?
As far as in the unit, in the hospital setting, or just in the in the hospital?
In the community or in the hospital setting?
I'll say first off, in the unit or in the hospital, one, just always maintaining patient safety. Safety is our number one priority as nurses, and especially psych nurses is our number one priority. You always want to make sure the patient is safe. So what does that look like? You want to make sure that you ask the patient thorough questions. You do a thorough assessment of their the mental well-being. Yeah, you want to always make sure, okay, are you having thoughts of hurting yourself right now? Thoughts of hurting anybody? Do you have any goals? And based on your answers, you know how to tailor the next questions. If the patient tells you, okay, I'm having thoughts of hurting myself, then you ask, okay, what is your plan? And like there's the sequence of questions that you have to ask to make sure that you keep that patient safe. So the psych nurse, again, has to have proper training in her assessment questions and knowing what the next step of action is for
Absolutely.
the intervention. So that's that. And also, what makes us different? Just being able to identify contraband.
Mm,
Yeah, and that's in the unit. And let's say, for example, in different hospitals operate differently. So in the hospital that I've worked in, whenever there is a code green stands for combative patients. Whenever there's a code green announced, this a nurse from the psych floor has to go to that particular unit in that particular patient's room to go assist the other nurses. So as a psych nurse, which is psych background, you go over there, you are able to help the like a med surg nurse tell her, okay, this patient, he wants to elope. Guess what? You even know why. And you give her the tools. Okay, Mr. Johnson, you go in there as a psych nurse, you build rapport with the patient, you first find out what's going on, you build rapport with the patient, and then ask them, what's going on? How can we help you? Oh, you want to smoke? Okay, you want to smoke. What can we do to help the patient smoke? Then you empower that nurse and tell her, okay, here's what we do to help the patient cope with cigarette cravings. You can get a nicotine patch, you can order nicotine gum. There are options. So then you empower that nurse to know what the options are, and you refer her to the psychiatrist. Like, okay, call this doctor. He's gonna order this. In the community, just being able to be aware of what's going on. As a psych nurse, you can tell when someone is having an experience, a crisis, right? You spot it right on, and people think, oh, look at them, they're crazy. Like people who are not trained, they will look at that person and think, oh, the person is going, he's crazy. Like they will just not want to deal with the person. But as a psych nurse, you're able to recognize that, and if you choose to, you can assist, or maybe you can you know how to escalate. So you can call 911. Yeah. Or you can approach the patient. Okay, I see you're distraught. Is there any way I can help you? You do it therapeutically if you feel the need to. You don't have to. Yeah. Or you can educate people. Oh, especially this particular education is very key. Tell them this person is having a crisis. They're not crazy per se. You don't know what they're going through. Education is very important for in the community as psych nurse.
You mentioned therapeutically. Therapeutic communication seems to be a huge part of nursing, but I think also, especially psych nursing, because when you're dealing with a person's mental health, how you approach them, how you de-escalate matters a whole lot, right, in their recovery process and in the way that they're going to respond to you. So you guys really have to be up on top of your game with your therapeutic communication, both in the hospital and in the community. So have there been any experiences that you would say have stuck out to you, whether that's been a positive experience or a negative experience with a patient that has really made an impact in your psych nursing journey?
Yes. So I have. There was a particular patient that I had, and I'm someone I care about patients, and she was pacing, had her headphones on. She had experience being incarcerated, and again, where at that time I was working at another forensic hospital, and I noticed her patient. Let's call her Sarah. I said, okay, Sarah, are you okay? I see your patient in her room. She was preoccupied. I could just tell something was not okay, and I was concerned. So I was like, oh, Sarah, I noticed you're pacing a lot. Are you okay? The patient told me, oh, I'm okay. I'm fine. Just that there's something on, they put something in my bag. I said, okay, can I see it? It's like, yeah, she pointed out to me. And then, to cut a long story short, what did she even tell me? She said, oh yeah, she made the statement. She said, if you guys don't take out this thing in the back of my neck, I'm going to stab someone. And in psychiatry, a threat is as good as a committed act. So right then, when I heard her say, I know she said it out of anger and whatnot, but making such threat is very important for a nurse to always remember and to address it immediately. So I told Sarah, I said, Sarah, I hear you're upset, and I mentioned to you that I will notify the treatment team about what's going on, and I'm not seeing anything on your back, but I'll put you down. I'll write your name down for consultation. I mentioned that to you, and I had mentioned that to her. And however, threatening to stab someone is not okay. And I told her that's not going to happen. The moment I said that's not going to happen, she then walked towards me and told me I do whatever the F I want. The moment she said that, man, this is a woman who's like, she's pretty, like almost like 300 and something pound tall. And I'm, 5'6", 1 something. So I saw the glare in her eyes, and I saw the tone that she had. Fear came over me. I said, oh my gosh, I need to get away. So I just walked away. I almost literally ran to the nurse station. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because that experience shook me. I literally took off work because in my experience as a psych nurse, when a patient threatens you, they can actually commit that act. And some of them actually have committed those acts. So the reason why it marked me was I reflected on that experience. I said, Flavia, I remember everything was fine. The moment you said that's not going to happen, and I said it in a very stern tone, like almost like a commander tone. Yeah. And the moments where that's okay, but you have to know when to use that. And I realized that, this patient has experience she has experience being incarcerated. Yeah. And maybe some people have talked to her like that, and she got defensive. So I told myself, no more will I use that kind of tone. Yeah. So I said, I have to adjust the phrase, the tone in which I speak to patients. And it wasn't all the time, but that time it really marked me. I said, she reacted to what I said.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen over here. She's like, Yeah. So.
She was like, okay, I'll show you.
Oh, yeah. And I said, but it was a big learning experience about the tone you use. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to ask if there is a fond memory or something like a key lesson that you can pass on to younger nurses that are coming up. Maybe they're choosing to pursue psych. They're thinking about a career in psych nursing. What would you advise?
I'll first tell them to know why they have to understand why they're pursuing psych nursing. That's very important, because when you know why, it will keep you there. Because the moment where you will feel like, why am I even doing this thing? I didn't sign up to get beat up at work. Like, you're gonna question your decision. Yeah. So for one thing, know why you want to do it. Number two, educate yourself about what psych nursing is like. And I don't, even though I shared that experience, every day it's not like that. I don't get threats all the time like that. Some days I'm partying, like we're having a good time. Yeah. So educate yourself about psych nursing by doing research, talking to psych nurses. It's so broad. It's so it's so broad. So educate yourself about psych nursing, and just be humble. And another thing that nursing students who are aspiring to go into psych nursing can do is shadow a psychiatric nurse. So it sometimes may be a little challenging, but it's possible. Or if they're not able to shadow the nurse, they can find a psychiatric nurse and ask her questions. You can probably call the hospital, request to speak to a psych nurse or the psych nurse manager and request for an interview. And you can just ask the questions that you desire to know about. For example, what is it like working as a psych nurse? What are the pros and cons, the challenges? And just have them describe to you your best day or your worst day, what it looks like. So yeah.
Absolutely. I think there are misconceptions about psychiatric nursing that all you guys do is pass out meds. And everyone wants to go into psych now because it's such a hot buzz word, and everyone is getting like another degree as a psych NP or another, because there is a market, a window open. It's like people can work from home, and they can have some more flexibility But I think that what you're relating to me is that it really is a passion and a calling. And if you don't have the ability to bear the burdens of others, pretty much most of your day, mentally and emotionally, then it's really not the thing for you. So think wisely, think through, think through it, think well, and all of that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now, I want to switch gears just a little bit. This is a show or a podcast where we really want to highlight the things, the amazing work that nurses are doing, just like you. But also, I want to talk about media stereotypes of nursing and how we're portrayed in the media. So I want to ask you, what is your perception of the portrayal of nurses in the media? If you watch any shows, if you see anything, what do you think that comes from?
When I did watch television, I realized that a lot of times, sometimes what you see on TV, like, people doing the IVs and whatnot, they're the doctors, but in reality, those are the nurses. We do a lot more than what the media portrays. And sometimes, too, what the media portrays as the doctor doing it is actually typically the nurse doing that. And that's not okay, because it gives society a false perception of what the nurse does. Yeah, and that's not okay. And let's also be very mindful that nursing has changed a lot from its inception, because before there were no nurses, but there came this point in time where they discovered that, okay, physicians need assistants. Yes, we understand they're physician assistants. Nevertheless, the profession of nursing was birthed, and that profession of nurse, when it was birthed, nurses were subservient to physicians. However,
Absolutely.
things has changed. A lot of progress has been made through education and research and all of that, advocacy. And now nursing is, in my opinion, at a level where we are not so much subservient to physicians. We are, what's the word?
Collaborative.
Yes, we're collaborative with them. And it's important for nurses to know that they collaborate with the physician. They're not
Absolutely.
underneath them. And the media has to change that. And the nurse, too, has to be able to know her importance and her value in the hospital setting, or in the healthcare setting in general. Let me just quickly share with you a story. There came a point where we had a situation at work, and the change had to happen. We telling the doctor, oh, this patient is very aggressive. We need for you to adjust the medication, do something, intervene. The doctor said something, and it marked me. The doctor and the psychiatrist who prescribed medication, and the psychologist said, Flavia, I hear that the patient needs to change, and he's violent, aggressive, but guess what? We cannot do anything because there is no nursing documentation. The moment they told me that, my eyes were open. I mean, I already knew that, but to hear them say that, remind me of that, I said, oh my God. So literally, to me, it was like, our documentation is like, I won't say power move, it's so vital.
It's vital.
It's so bad, because they were telling me, Flavia, we don't have to, mind you, right now I work as a forensic nurse. Say, Flavia, we have no evidence to back up initiating this intervention, because the nurses have not been writing notes. You have not been writing that the person is aggressive, that he's been, clenching your fist, threatening you. You haven't been writing that they're telling you, F you, I'll kill. There's nothing on there. So there's no evidence to prove that this patient needs this degree of intervention. And nurses have to know that, because of their assessment and evaluation and the documentation, they're able to bring change to healthcare. They are powerful. We are powerful as nurses. The doctors need our evidence. We're not just working 24 hours for nothing. No, we are collecting data, and we have to be able to transfer the data into the patient's chart to give the doctor an accurate description of the patient's status. It's a very powerful responsibility.
Wow, you blew me away there. Yeah, I think that it's the partnership. We have to go from that subservient role, as you say, to realizing that we're partners in this. And I think until nurses really start to find their own voices, I think sometimes nurses can be lax when it comes to pushing pushing those boundaries, standing up, speaking up. They're just like, oh, I just want to do my job and go home. I got my family to worry about. So we're not as forceful as we really could be. But I think that we need to start really realizing that we have a scientific backing. We're not just order takers. We are not just robots. We have more to say, and our presence in the healthcare system is, you can't even, you can't do away with it, right? You can't have healthcare without nurses. And so when we realize that we're there, but we're not just there to be the, robotic order followers or order takers, but we're there to practice with our scientific research, with the evidence-based practices, and then partner with the physicians to bring the best outcomes for the patients, and see yourself as more. Don't see yourself as less. That will really start to change the landscape of healthcare and how we're perceived. So that was a powerful, I appreciate that. One of the key elements of psych nursing is, like we said, therapeutic relationship. Okay. What do you think it takes in order to build the trust, right, with your patients, especially those who are dealing with mental health issues? It can't be easy. So how do you get to the point where you can build that trust and that rapport?
Great question. I would say first off, you have to be self-aware of your state of being at a given time. Yeah. So if you come to work and let's say you're stressed out and whatnot, you have to be able to tell yourself, like, talk to yourself and tell yourself, okay, I'm not in the work environment. I'm going to find a way to just cope with what I'm going through. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that self-awareness, it determines how you're going to engage the patient and how you're going to respond to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
self-awareness is very key. Now, when you approach the patient, remember that these are human beings. Yeah. And there are several communication styles in place that you can, and models that you can use in building trust with the patient. So when you come to the patient, just get to know them. First off, introduce yourself to them. My name is Flavia. I'll be your nurse today. How are you? And actually mean it. If they tell you I'm not doing okay, I'm sad, just tell them, okay, well, we're here to help you. What can we do right now to make sure that we help you? Like that kind of care, like just showing that you care. Yeah, not just going in and the person tells you the sad. You're like, okay, I'm sorry. I hope you feel better. And then you continue your assessment. Just do a little bit more digging. You don't have to do a whole lot of digging. Just ask a few more questions, and then you ask
a couple of open-ended questions. Let them express themselves. Yeah,
and build the rapport. So, then give them a compliment. Oh, Mr. John, you look very nice today. I see, your hair looks nice. You greased your hair. Just something, a compliment. It just brings a smile to your faces. Because sometimes when they're going through a lot, they don't know how to come out of that mood they're in.
Yeah.
So when you give them a compliment or you make them laugh, just something simple.
It's like an icebreaker.
Yeah. Ask them. Okay, so what do you enjoy doing?
Yeah.
And then get them to talk about themselves.
Absolutely.
What they like. That's how you start building the rapport and try. And then also, if you tell them, for example, that okay, you're going to notify the doctor about a specific condition or a specific request that they have, make sure that you follow through on that and you come back to them. If not, it's gonna affect how they see you. Because they observe everything.
That's great. Okay, so I want to kind of pick on that word stigma, which we had talked about earlier, right? I think that mental health is largely becoming normalized, but for instance, we share something in common, right? We're both from Africa. You're from Cameroon and I'm Nigerian. Mental health still carries really a high stigma, right? It carries that stigma. People call all kinds of derogatory names to it. And this happens in many parts of society. What do you think that a nurse, a psychiatric nurse, what role do you think that you guys can play in helping to reduce the stigma in your day-to-day work with patients?
I would say educating the patient. Educating the patients. So in psych nursing, depending on the facility, it's typically a communal setting. Our patients are they're ambulatory. They can they can even run. They can walk. A lot of them they're physically able to do a whole lot. Just that on their mind, they have mental ailments. So we
Yeah.
usually have something called community meeting. Yeah, where
Yeah.
all the patients gather and we just talk. So it's important for psych nurses during those community meetings to have those conversations with the patients, and it also helps build rapport with the patient, nurse to patient. Number two, it also helps the patient realize that they're not in it alone, right? So psych nurses have to be able to utilize those communal moments with the patient and educate them, let them know that okay, it's not a. I get that. I'll speak as as a Cameroonian or African Cameroonian. We tend to think that it's a badge of honor to say, "Oh, we've gone through struggle," which a lot of us has as African, even as immigrants. You say, "Oh, I've gone through this struggle, this that struggle. I'm fine. I never needed therapy. Therapy is the white man. It's for weak people." Yeah. So
Yeah.
when we glamorize that, we say, "Oh, I persevered," but here's what people don't realize: you can persevere all you want. I believe that there comes a point where you will have a breaking point. You will
Absolutely.
have a breaking point. It's only a matter of time. It can happen when you're 40, 50, 90. Who knows? And
Yeah.
people have to realize that when you do have that breaking point, it's okay to get help. It's okay to get what God created. Like I believe, we're created by God, and I believe that we're not made to live in isolation.
Absolutely.
So we're there to help each other. So when you reach your breaking point, get go ask for help, or if someone notices that you need help, allow them to help you. Sometimes when you're walking, for example, you may fall and you may even try to get up, do your best to get up, but you're struggling. Someone may
Yeah.
see you and say, "Oh, here's my hand, come, I'll help you."
Oh,
So
beautiful.
we as a society, like a psych nurse, must be able to communicate that to the patients so that they're able to see that okay, it's okay to get help. There's not like we should not be so prideful that we don't allow ourselves to be helped.
That's so good. I think that education piece is so important, right? Because, like you said, people almost like glory in their struggle and their ability to not need any external help in order to get through it. But when we have better resources, at that time, they probably didn't have what we have today.
Yes.
And that's okay. It's like if you used to get water from a well in your village, for instance, and then the city or the village brings water to the borehole to now where you're having water flowing through your pipes,
Yes.
you're not going to be like, well, I'm going to pick up my bucket and go right back to the well, because I just want to prove that I can struggle. No, you have a better resource. So you have to use that resource. And that's what it comes down to. So I think that when people almost shame people for going through therapy and say, well, when I was your age, you guys are you gen whatevers are always so broken down. While there is a level of that, I think as a society we might be becoming a little bit less resilient. But I also feel like there's no shame in using the resources that are at your disposal. Exactly, especially if you're going to be healing your mental health, because that only helps all the people around you, the relationships around you. It's not just for you, it's really for your entire, sphere. So I think that that's a great thought that we need to educate more and really take away that stigma and that badge of honor for struggling.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. Okay. So where do you see psych nursing going in like the next 5 years, 10 years, perhaps even in Africa? Where do you see that going?
So where I see psych nursing about 5 years from now, I see them being more, what's the word, influential in your role, in your profession. So I want to make sure that psych nurses know that nursing is an art and a science. Okay. And I see some nurses within the psych field branching more into research per se, or they can do psychiatric nurses as it pertains to art, you know, and also make sure to emphasize that nursing is a profession that involves caring for the ill, the disabled, and the dying while promoting health and preventing illness. So maybe some nurses, you see them creating music about coping skills, you know, maybe fashion designers, like different things, just as it pertains to art. And other nurses can see that and say, okay, let's do research and see how like just creativity. That's what I see, and also backed up with research, because in order for us to elevate the profession and improve the quality of care, there has to be research, you know, to show that progress is being made.
And then what would you say within the African continent or other parts of the world where the stigma is still largely prevalent? You know, what are your hopes? What is your vision, you know, to see psych nursing or psychiatry in general evolve into?
So specifically within Africa, or just like I said, around the world, education, education. So people have to understand that in psychiatry, especially here in America, psych units are locked off facility. Not everyone has clearance to enter a psych unit. Even a nurse who can work in a med-surg floor, she may not be able to have access to enter a psychiatric unit. So people sometimes, they don't know what goes on in there. Their loved one is in there. They have no clue what happens. Yes, you may see movies, and maybe movies can, you know, they can exaggerate certain things, or they may what's the word, dilute certain content, right? However, is I believe that with psych nurses going in the community and just all schools, educating people about what actually goes on is important, and also emphasizing the fact that we are all human beings on this earth having a human experience. No one is perfect. Yeah. So we have to be able to tell people that you can see someone in your lowest stage in life, but then don't judge them based on the chapter of the story that you encountered them. Because maybe prior to you meeting them, they were a CEO of a major company, and everything was perfect. They were financially stable, everything was great, but something happened where they had a crisis and they did not know how to handle it, or they were just tired. They were just tired, and so they just allowed. They stopped caring, and pretty much their life collapsed. Being able, so people must always ask themselves that what they see right now, right? Why is the person like this? So as you're judging the person and whatnot, always ask yourself, how did this person get there?
Yeah.
We have to
Humanize them.
Yes, elevate our level of caring, our level of empathy, our level of education and intervention as a society and as nurses.
Absolutely. I love that. I want to know a little bit more about your personal goals, and we're coming to a close now, but I think I could talk to you for even more hours. We're coming to a close, but as we end, I want to know, what are some of your own personal goals? What would you really love to do for the profession of nursing in your own life within, say, the next 5 to 10 years from now?
It's fantastic. So what I would love to do is I would like to create educational program for psychiatric nurses to use within the psychiatric setting. So what I noticed is that a lot of times on the weekends, it's usually not busy on the psych unit, and so sometimes patients get bored, but they don't want to be obliged to go to certain groups. So you want to have structure, but not too much structure. So I want to be able to provide psychiatric nurses with certain group tools they can use to teach about medication, to teach about the patient's illnesses, different things. Yeah, just equip the psych nurse. That's what I want to do.
Yes.
And by doing that, you know, that one quote, Nelson Mandela said that education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. So I want to be able to empower psych nurses to educate patients so that they can then, you know, transform their lives. Additionally, I would like to also work on policies. I realized that in nursing, it matters who writes the policies, because it guides our practice. I didn't know that before, but now 10 years in the field, I'm realizing that, you know what? We have to. I don't know if the people who are writing it have ever been on site floor before. So, two areas.
I love what you said about empowering the nurse. It's so essential that we're taking care of our patients, but somebody has to care for the caregiver. If we can pour into the nurses, if we can pour into our healthcare workers in general, then they can find more fulfillment in going to work every day and giving of their best selves to their patients. And then about policy, of course, policymakers are the ones making all the decisions. They're calling the shots. They're the change makers. And so nurses need to have a seat at the table because we are the largest profession in healthcare. And if we're not there to make our own decisions, somebody is going to speak on our behalf, and that person is not a nurse, right?
Yes.
And how do they then feel what the nurse's experience is? It has to be the nurse who takes on those roles and who goes into those leadership positions. So powerful stuff. Absolutely love talking with you. We're going to play a game. And this is like my favorite part of the podcast because I kind of get to put you on the spot a little bit, but also give you some kind of directorial authority. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is a game I like to play, and I'm gonna pick a genre. I have a couple of genres in this jar. Well, not a couple. There's a lot of genres in this jar,
Okay.
and I'm gonna shake. No cheating. When I pick the genre, I want you to automatically become a screenwriter. I want you to become automatically a director and create your own show based on this genre. Are you ready?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, let's do it. Shake. No cheating. Picking it out. And your category is drama.
Oh my gosh. Perfect. Oh, perfect.
Okay, so Flavia, you have to tell us, give us a 2-minute storyline of a drama. It could be a series or it could be a movie where there's a nurse lead or a nurse character. Mm-hmm. And tell us, how would you want this nurse to be portrayed? What kinds of things would you like to see? And now it has to be dramatic because you just picked that.
Okay. So 2 minutes. Okay, if I go above, anyways, I'll just go.
No, so, take your time.
Let's call it flexing and documenting. Okay? So here's the nurse. Let's call her Linda. Linda, so she used to be overweight, right? She's an overweight lady in her past, and then she decided to just, she wants to change her life. She transforms her life. New Year's coming up, she goes to the gym, gets a nutritional try. Anyway, she loses weight. Yeah. So now she likes the way she looks. She's more confident. And then she goes to work. While at work, her charge nurse assigns her several patients. One of the patients that is assigned to her is OG. Now, OG is an obese lady, and OG knows she knows the nurse Linda, from another facility. So then when Linda now comes to OG and introduces herself, hello, Miss OG, my name is Linda ABCD. So OG then looks at Miss Linda saying, look at you think you're cute. You're not cute, you stole my husband. And so Miss Linda recognizes OG from a previous facility, and then she reorients OG to the reality that, no, I did not steal your husband. And who is your husband? Turns out that OG believes that a security officer who came to the unit earlier on is her husband. And when he came to the unit, he said hello to all the nurses, but because OG is really targeting Nurse Linda, she is upset, and she thinks that Linda stole her husband. All right. So then OG then begins to threaten Nurse Linda, saying, you think you're cute? I'm going to, mind you, if I was Nurse Linda, my hair would be up, because in psychiatry, we cannot have our hair down like that.
Yeah, I was going to say, you have some beautiful hair.
Yeah, they can snatch your hair. I mean, hey, so Nurse Linda's hair's up, right? In the bun. All right. So then OG then tells Nurse Linda with clenched fist, I'm going to kill you tonight, you B word. And Nurse Linda then verbally redirects OG. She tells her, OG, I can see that I can see that you're upset. Is there any way I can help you? Maybe you want to go use the comfort room. Maybe you want to use your coping skills, like write, your headphones. And then, Nurse Linda also offers medication to OG. OG said, no, I'm not your ID. Then she grabs the chair and slams it on the floor. And Nurse Linda, before moving away from her, tells her that this behavior is not acceptable, it's not safe, don't do that. OG then says, I do whatever the F I want, picks up the chair, slams on the floor again. OG then goes to the nurse's station, informs the charge nurse that here's what happened exactly, and then proceeds to notify the psychiatrist and the psychologist. Guess what happened? Psychologists and psychiatrists both ask Nurse Linda, well, were you hurt? No. Was the patient injured? No. So everything is fine. But here's the thing. Here's where you see the nurse Linda being a powerful psychiatric nurse. What she does then, she tells the doctor, I believe that this patient could benefit from having some medication or, better intervention. Can you please come to the unit? The psychiatrist said, no, I'm not coming. She's okay. You're fine. She's fine. We're good. Nurse Linda then goes through the patient's chart and documents exactly what happened. Patient with clenched fist made threats stating, I will kill you. Right, writing exactly what happened and being very descriptive. Picked up the chair and slammed it on the floor. Now here's where you see slammed it on the floor, and then you write that Nurse Linda, or the writer, verbally redirected client. However, client was not receptive. Then you write in the patient's chart at 11 a.m., whatever time you call the doctor, at 11 a.m., the writer notified Dr. Jones. Patient is at and then you put period. And then you write, patient is at imminent danger to self and others, put period. No new orders at this time, period. Nursing will continue to monitor for safety. Now, I'll tell you this. Anybody who's been in psychiatry, if they see this note, especially when you write, patient is at imminent danger to self and others, a psychiatrist reading this would pick up a phone call and call Nurse Linda saying, Nurse Linda, you know what, I'm going to order some medication for this patient. I will order maybe some like Zyprexa, 5 milligram, Ativan, 2 milligram. Please give it to them. And if give to them orally. And if she doesn't want it orally, then I'll order for injections to be given. Okay? Okay. Nurse Linda will hang up. And it just goes to show you that at the end of the day, nurses do call the shots, right? And it's not about psychiatrists and nurses or psychologists and nurses being against each other. No, it's about us working collaboratively, because the emphasis of the story is the power of documentation. Because the doctor is not there to witness what the patient did. The threats in psychiatry, a threat is as good as a committed act. Because there's been numerous times, and studies have shown that when someone threatens you, chances are very soon they will commit that act. So we take threats very seriously. So the moral of the story is that it's very important for nurses to document. Yes, you can tell the doctor ABCD. I'm sure doctors a lot of them are compassionate. However, when we don't see anything documented, there's no evidence. So please, we have to continue documenting so that we can save lives.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness, that sounds like a real story. Girl, you came up with that on the spot.
Man, we have stories. As psych nurses, my God, we have stories.
Wow. Okay. Well, maybe you'll play you'll be a director on a show someday or something, because that was a good story. But yeah, I've totally enjoyed having you on here. Where can people find you if they wanted to connect with you?
So right now I am on LinkedIn. My name is Flavia Etoundi. You can find me there. My Instagram too, but I'm not posting too much. But my LinkedIn is the main one. I really I like LinkedIn a whole lot. So for now, LinkedIn is great. Awesome. Instagram is there too, but LinkedIn is where you can find me.
Awesome. So guys, connect with Flavia Etoundi, psychiatric nurse, on LinkedIn. Show her some love in the comments of this video. Thank you so much for joining us. It was such a fun time, and I have loved chatting with you, Flavia. Thank you for being a guest. All right, y'all. Take care. Bye-bye. Thanks for hanging with me till the end. I hope you gained some valuable insight into the world of nursing. If today's episode inspired you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who needs to hear about the amazing work nurses are doing. Let's keep breaking stereotypes and reshaping the narrative together. I'll see you next time.